So back in early 2019, we did get a inland wetlands permit that was associated with rebuilding this filling station location. The tanks were required to be removed per Connecticut DEEP requirements, and so the owner took that opportunity to give a facelift to what was a very old and fairly rundown filling station. So what you see here is that finished product. So that's the new building sort of in the center of the sheet, the new canopy. If any of you have been by, I think you'll see that it was a significant improvement over what was there. At the time that this project was done, the owner was under a lot of time pressure because of the tank deadline. And so we decided to table any plans for a potential drive-through at that time. But now that that project has been accomplished, they're still interested in the drive-through. And so if you kind of just maybe take a little mental picture of what the existing conditions are, particularly over on the right-hand side by the tanks where the parking is. Rob, if you could maybe put up the proposed plan, can explain. Yeah, so building is the same location as it currently is, of course. The new construction is all to remain. The site was designed with the opportunity to add a drive-through around the back of the building. Now, currently behind the back of the building, there's a slope. It's a fairly steep slope, about 2 to 1. The idea here was to construct the drive-through and put the retaining wall essentially at the, and Rob, maybe I should make it clear that that sort of hatched area around the perimeter of the drive-through, that would be a retaining wall. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but I think it's about 12 feet tall at the highest point.
Yeah, that's correct. And the tallest point, I believe, is right around here. I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so this is the plan we submitted, and we did get some initial town comments on it, which we've looked at, and we can discuss it if you'd like. But what the idea here, once again, was to sort of keep the development area similar to what it already is and put this retaining wall at the toe of the current slope. There is some wetlands disturbance. And over in maybe you pointed out, we were proposing a mitigation area over there on the left side of the sheet. Kate, I don't know if you want to add a little more about what we're doing with that, but the idea was we have a minimal permanent disturbance, and our intent was to provide mitigation for that. And like I say, once again, if you want, we could run through the town comments that we've received so far quickly, or make a fuller presentation at the next meeting, assuming that's the direction we're going.
Okay, is that to me that?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't know how much you wanted today, or if we should, sort of wait for to move on to a public hearing, or we're happy to, like I say, go through it in as much detail as you need.
Yeah, I mean, ideally what's going to happen is I want you to give us enough information that we can think about it for a month. And I'm fairly confident that we will table your permit, call for a public hearing next month, and then you can go through this again for everyone in the public. So whatever you're prepared to tell us about right now would be fine.
Okay.
Can I just jump in for a second here, if you guys can hear me, Bob Alvarado?
Yes.
I was hoping, Todd, that perhaps the applicant would make a brief presentation on this. We feel as staff, and it's reflected on the report that we sent you dated January 7th, that this is significant activity that should require a public hearing. In view of that, what we are recommending is that instead of waiting a month, what I would suggest is that its public hearing be scheduled for the next month. So therefore, you guys can hear the entire application at the next meeting. So we can save a little bit of time on this. Because if we were to schedule a public hearing at the next meeting, then that hearing would be for March. If you were to schedule a public hearing today, of course, we could easily hold the public hearing in the February 10th meeting, and hopefully be done with it. And then at that time, you can either make the decision on the 10th or table it, think about it for a month or so, and make a decision in March. And it will save, it will make it easier for, I think, for everybody to follow that path.
I agree.
Right, yeah, I agree with you, Bob. As little or as much as you think that we need to hear right now, but yes, I'm sure when the time comes tonight, which may be right now, to say that we should schedule a public hearing for next month. Yeah, the sooner we can keep this going and flowing, the better.
Okay.
So,
Okay, well, I could certainly add a little more information to what's going on here. You can see on this plan, we have some hatched areas, and the one area, if you look over on the left, and Rob, maybe you could point it out, in the prior application for construction, we had I guess that number is at 85 square feet of area that we had disturbed for construction and then restored it back to a grass area. Now, the current project, we've got 390 square feet that's hatched over at the corner of the drive-through. And obviously that will become something that's sort of within the drive-through area. So that's a permanent disturbance. And you see we have two replication areas planned. One over to the left that's labeled with 300 square feet, and then one just behind the drive-through. I think that was 120 square feet, if I recall. So we did get a staff comment that they would like us to try and create some replication areas that would equate to more of a 2-to-1 replication. We're closer to a 1-to-1. So our designs team had a meeting, and if you look over by wetlands flag 109, maybe you could point that out, Rob.
Sure.
There's some area there between the existing wetlands and the proposed retaining wall where we should be able to create some additional replication in there. Also, we had preserved some trees that were on the survey for the original project. By adding the drive-through, we would have to remove those trees, and we do have a planting plan where we're proposing some replacement plantings. And we had a comment from staff, I think, that they would like us to take a look and see if maybe there's anything we can do with the grading or the design to try and minimize the tree removal, which we can do. But in a nutshell, this was just an addition of a drive-through. There's no other site construction. And we intend to mitigate any of the permanent disturbance.
okay. At this point, I'm going to let members of the commission come forward and ask you any questions they have pertaining to this. So let's see. I'm going to just go down as my Zoom list shows. Commissioner Kelly, you would be first. Do you have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Kelly, you need to unmute yourself.
There we go.
There.
Yes, thank you. Among the recommendations from staff is using something that's pervious as opposed to total concrete and impervious surfaces. What is your consideration for some type of permeable surface for this additional drive-through lane?
Yeah, I said it would be hard to do something in the drive-through lane itself because it's likely to be behind the retaining wall. We are looking at some other options, which I'll probably mention in a minute, but you generally try not to recharge too much water behind retaining walls. From a structural standpoint, it's not a good idea. I think we would have to get together, the design team and brainstorm on some other things we might be able to do. I don't think permeable paving or permeable pavers is something we could really do in the drive-through itself, but maybe we can come up with some things we could do on site as an alternative.
You're saying the drive-through is behind the wall? That doesn't make sense. The wall is behind the two drive-through lanes.
Yeah, the wall goes up so that we don't have to do, extensive grading. It kind of keeps the whole development as compact as possible. So the idea would be to go 22 feet out from the back of the existing building, build a wall, fill in behind it, and put the drive-through over the top of that fill. And so if you drove in the way the plan is, on your right-hand side, you're up on top, you're driving in, you're on top of the wall, and it drops off to the right on the other side of the wall.
You're on top of the wall. So even, let's say, if you put the straight portion of the actual drive-through lane, not the bypass lane, the inner drive-through, if that was pavers or permeable, would that be unstable like you're talking about?
Yeah, generally speaking, you try not to saturate the walls behind or saturate the soils behind a retaining wall. Walls are generally designed with a free draining material behind them and an under drain, just to try and make sure that the water moves through. Now, it's not out of the question. We'd have to talk to a wall manufacturer. Maybe we could, with the right material, do some kind of paver system, from a sort of a filtration, cooling standpoint, and have the water percolate through some soils before releasing it to the wetlands. That might be possible.
Well, thank you for that. I'd really like to see when you come back and have more for us, where you would be doing this. We and I'll speak for the commission and the town, we're making strong efforts to have low impact development whenever anything comes before us. And anywhere we can have the opportunity in a plan. Now, obviously this whole plan is done, this building is up and everything's been constructed, but we can still peck away at any new construction and ask for something like that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Brown.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Schweitzer, do you have any questions?
Not at this time. I'll wait until the public hearing.
Okay. Commissioner Desai, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Let's see. Commissioner Whelan?
I do. What's the height of this wall that you're building?
Yeah, Rob, maybe you could just sort of start at the beginning and hit a few points on the wall, give them an idea of, there you go, right there.
Yeah, this is the grading plan, which has some of the spot grades. I don't know, Mark, do you want to take it away? Or do you...
Yeah, I can see it. So
Okay.
Maybe blow it up just a hair for my my older eyes here, but thanks.
There you go.
Yeah, so as you enter the drive-through, you're coming in, and you're at grade there. And as you start heading around the turn, the natural grades begin to drop off. By the time you get around the turn, we're showing a top of wall at 28.8 and a bottom of the wall at 20.5. So we're just over 8 feet tall. As you go across the straight section, about in the middle of the straight section, we're looking at roughly a 9-foot wall. And then by the time you get to the turn again, it's more of a 7 or 8 foot wall. And as you go around the turn, obviously over that last 30 feet or so, you tie back into the existing pavement for the existing parking lot.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, all right. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. There we go. All right, at this point, I would like to welcome Marnie Liska as a new alternate, a member of our commission. She served as a project manager for several general contracting firms. So she has experience in building public buildings like libraries and police stations and office buildings. And I'd like to welcome her to the commission now, and it's her turn if she has any questions. Welcome aboard, Marnie. Or, sorry, Commissioner Liska.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. I appreciate the introduction, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone. I was wondering if the applicant could put the previous drawing back up on the screen for a moment.
The existing conditions plan or the proposed site plan?
I think it was
This one?
yes, please.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's an area hatched in right here. I'm assuming everyone can see my mouse moving. That's indicated as a temporary wetland disturbance area for construction.
Mhm.
So
Let me highlight that. I think it's
Yeah.
this area that you're,
yes.
okay. Yeah.
So I was wondering how you determined that that's the extent of the area to be disturbed during construction, because given the height of that wall, as far as I can see, it's going to be necessary for major equipment to be on the back side of that wall in order to construct it. And I think the impact of the equipment is going to go much farther into the wetland area than is actually being shown. So, I mean, I'd also like to see it extended around this area. And based on the scale of the drawing, I think it was an inch was 20 feet.
Correct.
Yes, it should be 1 to 20 feet.
So
Check
just
really quickly.
how wide would you say this scales out?
I think that's a 5-foot area, and we're doing a project in Waterford that also had a large retaining wall near a wetlands, and we've actually got the first 250 feet of 300 feet in. And that particular project is using 44-inch deep blocks that are 8 feet wide and 3 feet tall. And they've been able to do it within these kind of limits because that was a similar situation. We had to commit, and so they can do the work from the uphill side and build it as they go, putting the geogrid in. I think a lot of it has to do with the contractor. You just have to make sure that they understand way you need to do it.
I agree that building the wall could possibly be done within a 5-foot distance, but your site contractor is then going to need to backfill the foundation for that wall. And that can only be done from the far side. So I'm a little concerned, and I hate to leave it up to the contractor as far as what additional wetlands will be impacted. But so that's one concern I have. The other question I had is what are there any plantings proposed to go back in the wetland area? I see that there are quite a few trees getting removed that are of a significant caliber.
Yeah, Rob, I probably should put up the planting plan. And,
I'm on it. Yeah.
New age. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess we can cycle between, this is the planting plan, and then we also have the, the wetland replication plan, which I guess
Yeah.
both of those apply. You want to start here, Mark?
yeah, well, why don't we start with the planting plan and, Terry, do you think you could, say a few things about what you, specified here and,
Or Terry Hahn, LADAPC, land planners, landscape architect. What we were looking at, because some of that proposed grading was going to be riprap to try and get some alternate habitat trees in this zone. It's a little bit of a monoculture out there right now. A lot of the large, although they are large trees, they're not in great shape. So what we're trying to do is just increase the habitat. And if you look at, can you scroll over to the plant schedule and just expand that, Robert?
Sure.
You can see what the proposed planting for that area is. Bigger.
Bigger?
highlight the plant schedule.
Yes, please.
Okay, bigger and highlight the plant schedule.
Yeah, just make the plant schedule cover most of the screen there. For us people who are vision impaired. And yeah, and then,
Yeah,
there you
I
go.
got it.
We're in business.
Yeah.
I can't actually read that, so you got to make it bigger.
You gotta understand, man. You get
I'm
a certain
sorry.
age, Rob.
I'm sorry.
Okay, there you go.
So we have a combination of red maples, Tupelo oaks, a combination of a wide variety of plant material. We try not to do, again, the monoculture.
Mhm. Yeah.
Does
And,
that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? You're all set, Commissioner Liska.
I have one more question. I'm not sure if this has really to do with inland wetlands, but I was just curious as to what the drive-through would be used for. I'm trying to understand use the owner expects to get out of the drive-through. I've seen a few of these around the state, and they don't seem to be used very much. However, if the thought is to put something like a Dunkin' Donuts in there, I would imagine the use would be, more. So I was just curious as to what the drive-through would be serving.
Salim, are you still on the,
Yes, I'm here.
okay.
This question concerns two parts. We were thinking about it pre-COVID. We were just thinking about it, but we were not crazy about it. All of a sudden, we got stung by COVID, and we realized that thinking has to be turned into essential. The C-stores are basically concerned as essential businesses to provide services and goods to the public when they can't go to the supermarkets and all that stuff. So all of a sudden, the back of mind kind of idea turned into the upfront, the idea. And yes, the plans are either we were trying to invite, at this point, we are open to any franchisee who can serve foods in their Dunkin' Donut, ranging from Dunkin' Donut to Taco Bell, or any of those along those lines. And
Okay.
Yep. Yes, please.
No, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
So that's the idea we are working at it. And currently we are in the process of trying to invite and try to attract whoever comes on board. But everybody's like, let's see what happens if you're even getting the drive-through. Because in order to conduct those plans and do the plannings, it involves a lot of timing and a lot of resources. At this point, nobody wants to commit anything unless we have the approval for the drive-through.
I understand. Thank you. I have no more questions.
Okay. And yes, Commissioner Liska, that's okay, because that was going to be my question, what the drive-through or the convenience store was going to be for. Let's see, with that, Commissioner Stevens, Do you have any questions at this point?
Hello. Hopefully you hear me okay. I do have several questions. I'm assuming that we're probably going to find that this is a significant activity and it's going to go to public hearing. But I do have a couple questions that might be good to have the applicant prepare for the next meeting. First question is the bypass lane absolutely necessary? Is that like a zoning requirement?
Yeah, we originally had it proposed without the bypass lane. And we ran it by Kim Ritchie in zoning, and they directed us to the regulation that requires a bypass lane.
Okay. Then another question I had was, it looks like with this proposed wetland basin that you're going to create a wetland there, is it really appropriate to be putting roof drainage into a wetland creation area? Isn't that more of a stormwater basin, which I don't know if that necessarily counts for wetland mitigation then, would it?
Rob, if you could put up the probably the proposed site plan. And Kate, our soil scientist, is on the call. From an engineering side, we usually consider, we wouldn't do it with necessarily, parking lot runoff. But we thought it was appropriate. I'll let Kate weigh in, and then I think we may have some other ways to feed some water to it if that's
Is it possible to redirect that roof drainage to the stormwater quality basin?
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed, and I've been checking on the stormwater quality basin like I always do when we construct something, and it seems to be holding the water a little longer than we want it to. So actually at a call we had earlier in the week, we discussed maybe running an under drain, or essentially after the stormwater basin had done its job and water was recharging, in order to get it to drain out over a reasonable period of time, we could direct the filtered water to that the mitigation area. That was something we were going to be looking at. But Kate, I don't know if you had any thoughts on the appropriateness of roof drain to a mitigation area.
I do. And I have some other thoughts about comments that were coming up, which I can also kind of chime in on those now, if that makes sense to people. But in terms of the basin, so the biggest concern about putting this wetland replication area on top of the hill is we need water. So, the thought process was with the roof drainage, while there are some contaminants that are in roof drainage for sure, the amount of them would be less, and then we'd be segregating our infiltration between the two different areas, and also supplying a little bit more of a consistent discharge of water from the site to the basin for the wetland replication. So I guess to say, if we can take that and we can divert it if there are concerns to the basin, we just need to make sure that we modify our design to make sure that we're having enough of these smaller events charge into the wetland replication area so that we can maintain that hydrology. So I don't see a really big issue on my end with the amount of contaminant that would be going in there, because we have a lot of herbaceous material that's expected to be planted in there, some iris, and what else did we have in there? We have Rudbeckia and on the edges, and I think they're both are irises that are in there. So these guys are really great at, absorbing contaminants. So that's it's like a stormwater treatment wetland / wetland creation area. And, that kind of brings me to an overall thought about the site, which is, this is a very, if you could zoom out a little bit, Rob, so we can just see the whole area, that'd be great.
Want me to go to the site plan?
Yeah, the one with the gradings would be fantastic. So we can, there you go. Just zoom in a little bit for everyone so we can see the grades. So, with this site, you can see it's pretty steep down to the wetlands, and then you have a highway on the opposite side. And so the question then becomes, what's the best way to provide mitigation on a site that, has these characteristics? Do we want to go digging into all these areas? So that's how we ended up on the top of the slope. So, we could always be cutting out like that area by WA 109, which we've been discussing, and try to create more wetlands in that area. But personally, overall, in my opinion, on a site like this, the mitigation, I feel, is better focused on not creating wetlands, but making sure what gets into the wetlands is of better quality. Whether that be the trash that blows by on the highway and the properties nearby, how that stormwater gets cleansed before it gets down, because before, we did the initial project, there really was no cleansing happening. It was just going down and kind of creating some issues. So, this site's kind of like a big picture. What are we looking for? What are we looking to achieve? And I want to kind of pull everybody in on that discussion too, because I think, that'll help us and direct us on how to best balance what's going on. So I know those are really long answer, Commissioner Stevens, but
I have one more question for Kate before you leave.
yeah, and I can answer, and I have a couple other questions that I can chime in on.
Yep.
As well.
One of my biggest questions is with the wetland delineation. Did you add in like flag numbers 113A and B? Because it looks like the original wetland delineation maybe got larger. Did some wetlands get created there in the swale?
No, what happened is it was kind of thick when I was out there. And so I thought I was at my edge, and then I crashed through the brush and I went up a little bit farther. So instead of going back and just renumbering, I added an A and a B. So there's nothing new. That's what was always there from the get-go. That is just my numbering when I noticed that something was a little bit different than I had intended. So I had already gone over from 113 to 114. And then I was like, oh, I really need to add this up on top. This is, marginal, but it fits. So that's why that happened.
So, but that wasn't in the original plans though, was it?
It was, yep.
It was? Okay.
Yeah, and that was our, that was our fill area.
Because I'm looking at one of the first sheets and the line didn't go that far over on that part of the site. It just kind of came in from 113 to 114. So I didn't.
Oh, maybe it's an even older version, but I don't think it was surveyed without those flags. So I'll look back on that.
Maybe check into that. But I do generally agree with what I think it was Bob or somebody originally said, that usually when you're having direct wetland impacts, it's good to see a 2-for-1 mitigation replacement. And with the fact that we're creating this wetland and discharging roof drainage into it, it's really more of a stormwater basin than it is a wetland. I mean, I know you're trying to make it a wetland mitigation area also, but in lieu of the fact that it is going to be receiving some stormwater drainage, I would think you definitely want to have some kind of 2-to-1 mitigation. That's just my own personal feelings. And I have several others, but like I said, I think we're going to be going to, or I would assume, we're going to be finding this a significant activity because we do have direct wetland impacts. And if it goes to public hearing, then I'd have other questions. But I just wanted to let you know those are some of my questions, so you'd have some time to kind of work on that.
If I may, I have the original site plan, and it does have a 113A and B from pre-construction and the demo of this existing.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, and just while I have your attention, if it's okay, Chairman, if I just kind of touch on some of the other points before they go too far.
Yeah, that's fine.
So just thoughts to put out there is, so we're talking about the permeable aspect of having the drive-through going through there for the pavers or something of that nature. And as Mark had said, there's considerations for putting water behind a retaining wall for sure, and making sure it's well controlled. So it actually makes me a little bit, I don't know nothing about engineering, but for me, having the water infiltrate behind the retaining wall, I would rather see that water infiltrate on that open area where we don't have to worry about stability issues. There's no maintenance issues. So for me, while I understand the drive, I don't know if that location is maybe the best suitable for the site. And, you know, one of the things we made sure we did was put in the concrete so that when the water is running off of this area, the thermal impact will be less. So when it's going through the treatment system, by the time it starts to get infiltrated, it'll be cool. It'll have time for some treatment going through with the plantings and the soil that's there. And for me, I'm kind of focusing on letting the water getting back into the earth and back down to the wetland through the treatment drain, just to make sure it's a little bit cleaner and that we don't reduce any stability of the construction out there. But I'm sure Mark will deal with that in terms of the stability wise and look into that in more detail. The other thing I wanted to mention is I've seen, Terry and I have actually been on 2 projects that had similar walls. And on the first one, I said, there's no way you guys can only disturb 5 feet on the other side of this wall. And I've actually watched it be constructed. And, you know, that's really just foot traffic going back there. You know, the machinery can usually work from the top and then pull their, you know, have their arms go down in there. So you just need the men down there. You know, maybe we can make that a little bit wider because it's an area that would be restored anyways. So as long as we're, you know, giving them extra room to work, that could be something that could leave that comfort space. And Terry, maybe it's something where these couple of projects that I'm thinking of, I don't think they're around the corner by any means, but they're really good examples of how you can work really tight on these wetlands and still get these walls constructed. And I was pretty blown out by that. Let's just see if I have any other little comments I was making here. So yeah, you know, so I think we're looking to get your take on this project as well, you know, tonight and even between tonight, if you want to, you know, contact staff and then forward comments along, you know, where you're going on things with what you're looking to see, you know, because 2 to 1 on this site is not the most easily obtainable without creating this perched wetland system that we have up top. So we could try to make that bigger and then actually allow more infiltration. But, you know, we can also be looking into some other low impact development approaches that might be more appropriate for such a narrow site that's kind of jammed in between a lot of activity that's going on. So, you know, we're open to any suggestions and we will try our best to get to that 2 to 1. I don't know, Tara, if you have any comments in regards to you seeing these walls constructed as well.
Yeah, no, I quite honestly, the commissioner's comments has always been my feeling as well until recently when we had some real tight constraints. We actually put up a construction limit, staked it all out, made sure it happened. And quite honestly, they didn't have any problem meeting those requirements. It's a little bit of a construction burden that you need to make sure is completely described in the plans, but it can in fact be done. I was very surprised.
And I'll just pipe in that in the comments we got from January 7th, comment number 6 was for us to provide a construction sequencing relating to the construction of the wall. And, you know, that's, I think where we do have in the set some sections and things like that. And I think we can actually describe, you know, the means and methods in a little more detail. And I echo what Kate was saying. That's how they're doing the wall in Waterford. They have people down there. They have plate compactors that can be lowered by the, you know, the larger equipment that's up on top of the wall. And they've been really good about keeping the construction tight. But like I said, when we address the staff comments, we'll provide some more information on the construction.
All set, Commissioner Stevens?
I just had one more quick question. I haven't been on the site. I did flag the Wendy's next door to it. I delineated the wetlands there. And I think I brought this up at or I should say the original meeting for this project, where I saw a lot of rubbish and garbage and, you know, behind the buildings here. Has any of that been cleaned up during the current construction that we've had here on site?
Yeah, that was matter of fact, I think a lot of it got cleaned up before construction had started. And I have had conversations with Salim, you know, and he understands, you know, the importance of that was a concern from the commission last time around, in that so, you know, obviously they can control what they can control. And there is a little bit of a prevailing breeze or pattern or something, and they do tend to get a lot of things from the Wendy's next door that blow over the site. I don't know how much we can request
no,
Wendy's.
I meant
Yeah.
this is like old historical rubbish that I saw. That was,
Oh, yeah, there were mattresses and
yeah, like 30
old
years.
signs and all that. And yeah, that was, and Salim, he can jump in, but I believe all that was hauled out before the last project.
Okay.
Yes, hello, everybody. Sleen again. Yes, that was taken care. And also after the post-construction, that helped a lot. Because previously, anybody could just drive, go behind the building, side of the building, dump whatever, and just drive away. That's all gone. It's pretty lit building, cameras everywhere. There's no room. Somebody could back up and dump anything into the back of the building or anywhere else. So old rubbish is gone, chances of no new rubbish. And Alvarado been to site, I think, a couple of times, and he saw himself also, we are on top of everything right there. And we are in communication with the Wendy's also. They seem to be very cooperative neighbors. They realized it, and they promised also they will be doing their best also, and no more those issues.
Okay, through the chair, that's all the questions I have at this time.
Okay, thanks. At this point, let's see, Commissioner O'Connor, I think you're last. Do you have any?
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yep, I do have a few questions, a few things to top on. Steve, could you forward to us for the next meeting a plan of what the existing building was? Because I believe that whole building was leveled to the ground and started from scratch for this project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the second thing I have is I do have a large concern with the footprint. Your explanation at the beginning was that this was a rushed project because there was a tank issue, and that's why this drive-through was not put out there up front.
I wouldn't say
Did I
it was a
misunderstand
rush
you?
project. I think it was just understanding that the drive-through is a special permit use with a public hearing. There was going to be additional hurdles to go through, and we felt that the best way to get the primary project permitted and constructed on time was to phase it.
Okay. If you had done it at the beginning, how large would that structure that's there now, what size structure would it have been if you would have had a fit in the footprint without doing this existing wall structure? How large would that structure possibly have been? Could you estimate that?
The building itself?
Yes, sir.
The building would have been the same size.
So you would have had to move it forward, or what would the?
No, we can't move it forward because it was an existing filling station. And just for filling station design, just for people to get around the pump islands, you really need 70 feet from the curb at the street to the sidewalk at the building. And that's what we have. And the footprint on this building, the back of it, I think, I can't remember exactly the criteria, but we put this, they actually, and they would have liked a larger building certainly, but we were trying to stay within the, largely within the footprint of the prior building. But yeah, we can get you the generation ago plan if that's what you were looking for, what was there before this building was constructed.
Okay, I have a large concern because now that you look at this site, and a couple of you, the staff has mentioned it, not our staff, but the people who are here with representing the property owner it's a lot of activity going on a site, and there's not much space to work there. And so it draws me concern. I'm looking at, besides my concern with the wetland, because that's what our mission is as commissioners, my mission is to protect the wetlands. And I think that we've really maximized and squeezed out every inch we can out of this project. And now we're looking to expand it further, which draws me very large concern. That now, on top of that, besides the water problem, the trash has always been an issue. I'm familiar with that site for 35, 40 years, the flow of that. So trash is one thing that has never been maintained properly. But what concerns me the most is traffic flow. That right now is a very, very concerning part of that equation. And the traffic flow that's coming out of that structure now, and that potential to grow from there, to get onto the highway from that location or to get back into traffic flow in this day and age, in the year 2021, the traffic is extremely different than it was 25, 30 years ago. And it's a very, very big hazard. If you ever go down there and monitor traffic, which I did go down there and monitor the traffic that was going on before this meeting, that risk factor of these citizens leaving that property is a concern for me. And to increase that flow with possibly a drive-through Taco Bell, Dunkin' Donuts, or whatever, and that ratio in the morning is a very, very large concern for me. But like I said, our mission on this group is protection of the wetlands and the waterways. And I'm drawing large concern about how much space you've taken up already with this gas station. And now you want to squeeze even more out of this space by encroaching and building walls and other things to ensure it. And so I have large concerns. So I would be very, very strongly looking on your plan on what you're going to do to minimize that vegetation. I'm concerned on some of these large trees you're taking out. It's just, I have many, many concerns, and traffic is another concern, which I believe another commissioner or somebody else maybe want to be bringing up in topic wise. Those are just my comments, and I'll bring up the other thing at public hearing. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, my turn. It's actually a fairly easy one. I'm looking at the retaining wall, and there's a guardrail. How high is the guardrail, and is there something else like a chain link fence or something that would stop traffic from actually throwing things down into the wetlands?
Yeah, Rob, I can't recall if we showed a fence on it. I know we do have that section.
Yeah, right here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So so to try and minimize the footprint, this is once again, the same style retaining wall we're using on the Waterford project. It actually lets you get usable space over the top of the retaining wall footprint itself. As I mentioned, the blocks can be 44 inches deep. So we, rather than have a wall and then inboard of the wall have your driving area, we're trying to come up with a detail here where you actually can get your pavement over the top of the wall, and then we would surface mount guardrail and then provide a fence on top. So that's the concept for that outside of the drive-through.
Hey, Mark. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add, with my share screen, can everybody see that I'm getting a message about somebody requesting to gain access to my remote control of my screen? Is this being shown on the share screen? Like, is that?
I see you.
Okay.
I see the detail.
All right, because something came up on my screen. A Francis Whelan is requesting remote control. I don't know.
He is the vice chairman. I'm not sure what he's doing or not, but no.
I am not requesting any control at all.
Oh, okay.
It's not me.
All right, fair enough. All right, I'm going to decline.
Something's happening.
So, all right. It was taking up space on top of the detail on my screen, so I just wanted to be sure. But okay,
Sorry about
perfect.
that.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, but anyway, that's the concept. So we'd have a guardrail and a fence.
Okay, yeah, that was my question, is if that was a chain link fence or what it was. But looking at your picture now, I can see that there's, you've brought the wall in as close as you can. So if you're happy with a fence like that, and that'll hopefully reduce trash flow down, you've pretty much answered my question. Okay, with that, does anyone have any questions remaining?
I do have one more comment, if I could.
Yes.
I went to the site this afternoon, actually, and took a look behind the building. And I think there's been significant erosion of the grade behind the building. In places, it looks like a person can't even walk behind the building. So, my concern is that fill material is going to need to be placed behind the building for equipment to sit on to build the retaining wall that isn't there. So I would encourage the applicant to take a look at the as-built survey and make sure it's accurate as far as that goes. Thank you.
Okay.
Chairman Brown?
Yes.
One question, showing that section right there that you have up on the screen, could you show the existing grade on that also show what the depth of that stone is behind the retaining wall, then show how far out you're gonna have to excavate. If you're coming out a foot and then coming up at 1-to-1 to show where you're gonna intersect that existing grade.
Yeah, we can add the existing grade to the sections. Mhm.
Okay, I think that would help with showing where the impacts are gonna be.
Okay, all set, Commissioner Schweitzer? Okay, with that, I'm looking for a motion. Does anyone have a motion about this project?
I'll make a motion to
Somebody
schedule.
speak up. I
public
can't see
hearing.
you all at once.
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for Abdullah Enterprises LLC, proposed drive-through addition at 1380 Silestein Highway.
I'll second it.
Okay, public hearing for the February 10th meeting. All right, I can't see you all at once, but all those in favor of scheduling a public hearing for the February 10th meeting, raise your hands. I got, let's see, I've got myself, Commissioner Schweitzer, Commissioner Stevens, Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner O'Connor, Commissioner Whelan, and Commissioner Desai. All right, I think we're all in favor of having a hearing next month, public hearing. And with that, I thank the applicants for their time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
If
very
I-
much for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll see you all in a month.
Yes.
Will do.
God willing. Good night.
Okay, good night.
If I could, Chairman Brown, just real quick while I have you all here. So I routinely have a Wednesday night meeting that I run at 7 for Granby, Connecticut. And so getting on at 6 was fantastic because now I'm going to go shuttle over to Granby's Zoom. So I don't know if it's possible to have a similar timeline for our next.
It's going to be a similar timeline. It's going to be at 6 p.m.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much.
Okay.
See you all in a month.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Okay. With that, we're moving on to application for permit B, Commercial Services Realty, proposed placement of soil fill material to be located at 581 Cromwell Ave. Is the applicant present?
My name's Peter Diadio. I represent the landowner and I'm the developer for Commercial Services Realty. Thank you very much for allowing us to come before you tonight.
Peter, can I interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
Through the chairman, our firm, Soil Science Environmental Services, was involved with the wetland delineation on the project, so I'm going to recuse myself from reviewing this application. So I just want to let you know that.
Okay. In that case, in your place, our alternate, Marty Liska, will be voting for you or voting in your place. Okay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Stevens, because I was going to ask you to reflag the wetlands. So I talked to Jen Beno earlier today. And I did get your email indicating that either Al Giovanni could reflag it or we can have you back out there. Let's see how that goes. We are in the midst of this development, early stages. I have with me tonight engineer from my office, John Mills, and he'll be able to hopefully produce our plan set that we sent to Bob Alvarado, also Zach Nathan. I didn't see the owner on the line. I thought he might chime in, or at least to watch the presentation, but that doesn't matter really. Bob Alvarado indicated that he was going to suggest that this matter be brought to a public hearing, even though we're not touching any of the wetlands. I guess there's a concern of a pretty vocal neighborhood group in the back, and they want to, in the condominiums in the back, and they want to be aware of what's taking place here. So if that takes place, if you decide that you would like to have a public hearing, we certainly will accommodate you, of course. John Mills, can you put the plan set up so I can at least let the commission see what we propose as far as filling the site? So John Mills, may I be able to point to this site? Is there a way I could do that? John, are you there?
Yes, there is, Peter. You should be able to have remote control access.
Okay, so can you see my cursor, Mr. Commissioner?
The hand moving over that's in the lower corner right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, that's just so that I can point to
Yeah.
the property. So I'm sure you're familiar with this parcel on the corner of Rhodes Road and I'm trying to find, so here's the area map on the corner of Rhodes Road and Cromwell Avenue. It's a very visible site. But interesting enough that the grade differences in the site from this part of the site to, well, the wetland, which is approximately in the middle of the site, we'll see it better on the other map, is probably 20 feet, which is a tremendous grade change. And we've been working over the last year since we acquired the property for the current ownership group to attract tenants. And there's a significant, let me say, reluctance or misunderstanding on how the site will really appear once it's developed. So we, similar to what we did around the corner at Old Main Village, the office buildings that we built 10 years ago, which we had a similar situation, the grade dropped off significantly. We filled the site prior to finding and selecting all our tenants. And so while we've done several different site plans and think we were close with several different tenants, the site topography left us in question and unsurety. And so what we are proposing is that there was a formally approved plan that this commission or the commission before it approved, and it went through zoning as well, a 2009 plan. That was the one that Mr. Stevens was involved in, that showed none of the wetlands being intruded on, but the upland review area having some grading done to right where we have the retaining wall, or approximately the toe of the slope of the formerly graded plan. So what we've proposed to do is not encroach on the upland review area in any more greater of an encroachment other than that plan that was earlier approved. So that's why we placed this wall where we did. We've got some comments from your engineer, Stephen, and we've replied to all of them, and that's what this plan shows. And I sent it to Stephen earlier today, and along with Bob Alvarado. Bob indicated that you may want this to go to a public hearing, as I mentioned before, so we can certainly do a more in-depth presentation at that time if you like. But we did show, as he requested, an example of the retaining wall that we propose, although the retaining wall would not necessarily be built in the beginning of our fill process, but it would be built as the fill process continues. This is our proposed site plan, and we have a couple renditions of this, and it's going to be tenant driven, of course. As we select a tenant, they're going to make some variations. We have the 1-story version that has the drive coming down the back, and we have the 2-story version that has the drive coming right off of the lot. As I'm saying, this would have walk-in on this level and walk-in on this level, which would be the 2-story version. This currently is the 1-story version, which has walk-in on only one story and additional parking in the back. That's what I have currently. If you have any questions for my engineer, John, he's here. And I'm glad to answer any questions or provide any additional information.
Okay, I'm gonna, just to give everyone a heads up, I'm gonna go in reverse order with the questions. So I'm starting with Commissioner O'Connor. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, this time, when you, on your site plan, do you know an estimate of how much fill you're going to be trying to bring to the site?
I do have that answered. Stephen asked it, and it's on this plan. John Mills, did you review how many cubic yards we're bringing in?
Yeah, for the record, John Mills, licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. Our calculation, Commissioner O'Connor, was 9,500 cubic yards of fill.
Okay, and where is that coming from? Do you have a location that site is now coming from, so we can see what type of material we possibly might be getting? Because there is a lot of questionable site material that comes into the town.
Sure, that's a great question, Commissioner O'Connell. And currently we have another site on the Berlin Turnpike that we've been filling for the last 7 or 8 years. It's a much larger site, it's 35 acres, and we've filled probably 80,000 cubic yards. And we only allow material that comes in that has an environmental report and that is, clean fill. So since we have this activity going on, is why we believe that we would extend that opportunity to bring the fill in, similarly quality fill to this location. And we certainly would accept those kinds of conditions, that we only bring in fill that is clean fill with an environmental clean material.
And then the last question is, I did see there was an application years ago, if I remember right, reading it and reviewing it a long time ago. Do you know why that project was, or that plan is being completely like abandoned and now we're going back to square one?
Well, no, actually, we haven't abandoned that plan at all. This is a similar plan with very similar encroachments on the upland review area, and there's just no tenants. So we want to fill the property now to help attract tenants. As I mentioned, there's such a discrepancy of elevation, and we thought we had some tenants recently, but yet we lost them to other sites. I think a big part of it was the unclarity in the tenant's eyes, what the site really is going to look like. So the old plan that you previously had approved, which was, I think, about 13,000 square feet, is a very similar location. There's a few differences relative to, if you take a look at our site plan, how we would like to see it accessed. See if I can get to the other.
Yep.
There you go. We would like to come off of Cromwell Avenue as well as off of Rhodes Road. And the earlier site plan did not have that feature. So there's some additional work we need to do with the Department of Transportation in order to accommodate that activity and that traffic flow. We've reached out to our traffic engineer, Scott Hesketh, and down to the local district to speak about it. And we think there's plenty of right of way to do that. And that also dictated a big part of our preliminary grading plan, which is why the fill application is constructed the way it is.
Okay. The only other thing is I'd like to see is with your traffic studies, your line of sight for the distance. I mean, that is a very high traffic and it's a very fast moving traffic area. And I know putting a driveway out there now is different than it was, 10, 15 years ago. We had a substantial larger traffic volume through there. I'm very familiar with the traffic studies that have been done there and enforcement there. So that would be something I think needs to be explored on how that would play into the equation of what factor you have, depending on how many people you have employed in that structure, if it's 1 or 2 story, and what your estimated traffic flow coming in and out of that area. But I do like the Rhodes Road access now, which I believe is different than last time.
Sure. So I appreciate that, Commissioner O'Connor, very much. And of course, as you know, the encroachment permit is governed by the Department of Transportation. They're the ones that are controlling that, which will require that traffic study, as well as your zoning board. So we're, as we get to the site plan, which we're not at this level right now, we're at a fill permit. But when we get to the site plan, we certainly will provide you those studies to, confirm that this access is appropriate. And if it, of course, if we can't meet the guidelines, the requirements, then we'll have to access it a different way. But preliminarily, it's been discussed that there's enough sight line and enough right of way to be able to accommodate this.
Okay, those are the only questions I have now. Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Stevens, you've recused yourself. Commissioner Liska, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Kind of minor. I did notice that I would ask that the retaining wall be shown consistently on the drawings. I think the extent of it is a little different from sheets 1 to 3. That was really just an observation. Because the project is a fill site, I'd like to see some kind of construction procedure laid out in the plans as far as maximum lifts for fill placement, what compaction's required, to make sure the fill is properly placed and compacted so it doesn't wash into the wetlands, for lack of a better word. So, and then my only other comment would be, you indicated, I believe that film work may start on prior to the construction of the retaining wall. I just wanted to point out that all these erosion control measures would have to be put in place before starting any work, even if you're starting fill on this side of the site. Everything would have to be set up on the erosion control plan before any fill started. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Liska. Completely understood. Great comments. We certainly understand and realize that erosion and sediment control must be in place before we start hauling it all. And I know Bob Alvarado will hold me to that prior to any site meeting, prior to any construction starts. And also we'll certainly accommodate you with a in-depth construction schedule and how the fill will be required to be placed, and we'll have that on the plan.
Thank you. And just one more comment. I noticed the soil erosion control plan does comment about hay bales being required around catch basins. I'd like to see these catch basins, this catch basin specifically, shown on the erosion control plan to receive hay bales, because during the construction of this anti-tracking mat, you're going to get a lot of silt running down this slope and heading into this basin, and therefore affecting this system that's there. So just.
Sure, we'll show those basins.
Yeah, if that could be
plan,
shown,
we'll
that,
show them.
yeah, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Whelan, any questions?
Yes, thank you. About the wall. How deep is the wall going to be in the earth? How tall is the wall? And what is your purpose of the wall?
So Commissioner, I'm sorry, I can't see it and I didn't catch your name.
Whalen, thank you.
Sorry?
Whalen.
Oh, I see it. Thank you. I hadn't turned the page to find you.
No problem.
Commissioner, those are very good questions, but the wall has not been designed.
Okay.
And the reason for that, of course, is you realize that's a construction permit. It's a different criteria we need to reach out for. So if we know once we secure our fill permit, we'll design the wall and we'll meet the criteria of the building department. And as far as its height, I believe I can give you an approximate on that. Let me just zoom in. Hold on here. John, am I still controlling this? Give me the grade, John, so I can see the top of wall and the grade below the wall.
Yeah, the bottom of the wall goes from 198 to a top height of 204. So anywhere from a 4 to 6 foot wall to answer the commissioner's question.
And what's your purpose of this wall?
It's to hold back the fill material. In other words, we're trying to create a building pad so that we have a relatively flat pad. And right now, as I mentioned, the grade change is almost 20 feet across the site. So we'll be cutting on the other side and we'll be filling on this side so that we have a pad that's a construction pad that's relatively flat to accommodate a building.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Desai.
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Switzer.
Yeah, the wall, can you provide offset dimensions from the wetlands on this wall for us?
I think let's see if we have that. John, I think we have that, don't we?
Yeah, approximately, looking at the scale.
I think it might be on the other version, the other page, right there, isn't it there?
We don't have dimensions, but judging from the wetland line, as we can see here, and with a 24-foot drive aisle, we're 25, maybe 30 feet, but this is the closest point, approximately 25 feet, Commissioner, from the wetlands with the wall creation.
Okay, could you include that on the plan if we go to a public hearing, which makes sure that those dimensions are shown?
I definitely will. We'll give you 3 dimensions along the wall to be sure that it's obvious, easy to read.
Okay, perfect, because I mean, even though the wall was previously approved, this is a whole new application, so the wall's going to be come up in question.
Yeah, no question. We'll definitely insert it so it's it can easily be determined by the public as well as the commissioners.
Okay, is there a drainage report coming in with this fill proposal?
Yes, my office will prepare that for you. It was requested by Stephen, and there's not an existing one relative to this particular plan. So we'll prepare that and have it for you for Stephen to review.
Okay, perfect. And then I know you had the volume of fill. Is the volume of fill that's going in the upland review area? I know if that number could be provided also, please.
Yeah, we have that as a square footage. John, can you give us that number, please?
Yeah, the impacted upland review area is 32,000 square feet, and the total volume of fill would be 9,500 cubic yards. So yeah, I believe we can provide, a calculation for how much of this 9,500 cubic yards of fill would be going into 32,000 square feet upland review area, Commissioner.
Okay. Those are the only questions I have right now. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, thank you. I just want to verify, this is purely a proposed footprint, building footprint.
That's right.
It's like 4 steps down the road from what we're talking about now, right?
Well, it's a reasonable expectation of what can be built on the site. As you know, for these commercial buildings, it's really tenant driven. So, a tenant might have a different configuration that they need, or they may need more square foot, so there'd be 2 stories, but the footprint would be the same. But this is generally approximately what would fit on the site, and it's similar to the previous approved plan.
What we approved before. All right, that's my only question at this point. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'm just thinking ahead in terms of the anticipated public hearing. You're bringing in 9,500 cubic yards of fill. How large of a truck? Is it a 10-yard truck? And what's the time frame for bringing the trucks in, both, during a business day, and how long you think it's going to take to actually fill the site? Just rough estimates.
Sure. No, again, that's a good question, and we can provide you with. So a truck takes 16 cubic yards, so you've got 600 trucks, and we anticipate not bringing those trucks all at once because we don't have a building yet. Now, if we had a building, I would need to tell you how many trucks we're going to have per day and when they're going to run. But I believe it's a reasonable condition to give us hours of operation, after 8 o'clock and before 4:30 or some other time that you may think's appropriate for us to run the trucks. And then we expect to spread the trucks out unless I get a site plan and need to build it right away.
Okay. One, and this is a personal question, it doesn't have to do with the permit, but placing the building at the back of the lot as opposed to the front of the lot. I'm only pointing that out because across the street is my vet, and I've been sitting in that lot while they're doing the COVID protocols, looking at your site. I'm just curious to what would drive you to put the building at the back and the parking in front?
Well, let me just get to the site plan. I think you're going to see that. So we have 4 rows of parking in front of the building. Now, it's possible that we have 3 rows of parking and put more parking in the back. Again, that's going to depend on my tenant requirement.
Okay.
But also, what you need to keep in mind is the grade change from Cromwell Avenue to my parking lot. And if I rush up there too fast, I'm not going to be able to have an appropriate entrance. So that has something to do with it. That doesn't mean that I can't move the building up some, because we do have some site plans with the building moved up. Not very close, but closer than 4 rows. So that's, where the placement of the building comes from, so that I can balance the access from Rhodes Road and balance the access from Cromwell Avenue. If our building becomes 2 stories, I can push it a little bit more forward, because I'm not as worried about the access from Rhodes Road down to the parking field. That's
Okay,
really
that's-
where it comes from.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for educating me. With that, does anyone else have any questions? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion to set a public hearing for the application for permit for Commercial Services Realty, proposed placement of soil, a fill permit to be located at 581 Cromwell Avenue, and hold this public hearing at our February open space meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Record show myself, Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner Schweitzer, Commissioner Desai, hang on one second, Commissioner Liska, and Commissioner O'Connor and Commissioner Whalen have all agreed. All right, so we'll see you guys in a month with a public hearing, and then we'll get comment and go forward with a permit vote. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. We'll make sure that all these comments are addressed on our new plan.
Okay, thanks. All right, moving on to section 4, actions taken, minutes presented for approval from the October 14th, 2020 meeting. Does anyone have any comments, additions to the draft meeting, the draft minutes from the October 14th meeting?
No.
All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, looks like we passed. All right, moving on to section 5, discussion. Discussion of an adoption of the 2021 open space meeting schedule. You were all emailed the schedule. Anyone have any comments on the schedule? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the schedule for 2021 meetings?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, so carried. Item 5B, Plan of Conservation and Development Plan Implementation Committee. Commissioner Kelly, anything to say? Has there been a meeting?
Yes, we actually had a meeting in December, and we had distributed a large list, a spreadsheet of items that are being discussed by the PIC. What relates to us is really well underway, and much of it is done. One large or important item that we've accomplished was going from a 10 or 15% set aside when open space is part of a development to getting it set that it's now 20% open space set aside, which I thought was a great accomplishment for the town. We've also worked with planning and zoning to have them agree to bring us into a discussion as the Open Space and Conservation Commission when they have a development that does have open space, so that we can give them perhaps some guidance or some recommendations when they say, we'll give you this piece of land, and to make sure it's not a rocky ledge or something that's of no value to the town and to citizens. So we look forward to working the two commissions together in certain cases, which again will be, I think, a win-win. The other item that sort of, affects us is connectivity. Lots of talk still on bike trails, opening up a trail potentially at the top of Elmridge Park that would connect to West Street. So still the goal is to make the town connected, bit by bit, trail by trail. If we can't do it with sidewalks, with trails. So I would say those are the main accomplishments for the PIC, and we're meeting again next month. So we've gotten on a really good schedule. We're meeting every other month for about a year or more. There was a big lag. We didn't have very effective meetings, so it's looking good. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, because we had talked before about that in our commission meetings about open space being set up to 20% now. And the same thing with us helping to advise P&Z. Okay. All right. So
Excuse me, Chairman Brown?
Yes.
Through you to Sandy, I'm sorry, to Commissioner Kelly, that's usable space that's set aside? It's not like a retention pond or something that they're giving us?
Exactly, so that we can have a say before planning and zoning accepts it as part of the plan, if that makes sense. And we can say, I mean, I'm thinking of up there off of Old Main Street on that project that is kind of now dead in the water for a bit. But, I think they were giving us some rocky land, and it really wasn't, it was open space, and it might have been 20%, but it's not anything that had any value. So that's exactly what we want to make sure of.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on to item C, alternate member to PIC. All right, Bob, what's up?
Yeah, if I can speak to that, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. So at the beginning of the PIC committee, when it was formed, there was 2 members assigned from your commission to the PIC committee. As of now, we have Sandy Kelly assigned as a member, and the staff suggested that you might want to look at appointing another member as an alternate member to also attend PIC committees. So I'm going to leave it up to you, but it will be probably a good idea to start thinking about, or if not tonight, to start perhaps appoint somebody to somebody else other than Sandy to the PIC committee.
Okay. All right. Well, my first question would be, is there anyone in the meeting tonight that would like to be the alternate? And as Commissioner Kelly has said, 1 meeting every other month. Anyone interested in that?
And there's Zoom meetings, by the way.
Mr. Liska, did you raise your hand? Wait, hit your mute button.
Yes, I did.
All right, I didn't see, did anyone else have any interest in doing this? Seeing none, that was very quick, and thank you so much for stepping up. So Commissioner Kelly can fill you in at some point about what goes on with the meetings. And as staff said, there's Zoom meetings right now, so you can do it from the comfort of your own home. Okay.
Right. And also, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, since we have you here also, and Sandy spoke a little bit about the connectivity, that connectivity component of the planning of conservation and development. We as staff, Steve, Kim, and I are looking at also connectivity to the river. because that was big. And also closing of sidewalk gaps that we have in the town of Rocky Hill. So Steve, our town engineer, has provided maps of sidewalks, of the sidewalk that we have done recently, of the gaps that need to be still closed off, also of ways of perhaps making it down to the river. And those plans will be presented also to the PIC committee at the next meeting. And as you know, the former foundry was approved with actually a trail, with sidewalks and a trail along the top of the bank of the Connecticut River. So basically, our goal is to basically get there somehow and provide the PIC committee alternatives. So the PIC committees can come up with can suggest to the Planning and Zoning Commission ways of recommend ways of doing this. So that's what we're working on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure in a minute when you talk about the stats or the reports, we'll hear about the foundry. But yeah, being able to go along the river, that's always a welcome thought. All right, so stats of the reports, what do you have for us?
Basically, I just wrote a couple of notes, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. So just going to start with the foundry, since we were talking about the former foundry. And then I was in communications with the project manager of the foundry. So the latest is that they're moving ahead, they're proceeding ahead. The soil remediation will start in the spring. They're looking for also demo permits sooner than later for demoing the former friendly auto body. And also there's, as you probably know, there's also some remediation that is to be taken care of behind friendly auto body. So that's in the works. If you go down to the former foundry, you'll see that the area was cleared. A lot of the area was cleared, and it's looking a little bit different than it did, a few months or last year. Also, related to the former Rocky Hill landfill, we haven't had any communications, any kind of report as to what the status of the former Rocky Hill landfill is at. Regarding the subdivisions in town, I just wanted to let you know that most of the work, final paving was done in the summer and fall of this past year. Side note regarding the Straskas farm, the deadline, if you will, for Mr. Straskas to vacate is the 28th of this month. At that time, then we can proceed ahead and do what the town needs to do to clean up the remaining of the farm. I know that there's been some discussion and some concerns with some of the equipment from the farm mitigating to the north side of where the farm is located. So our zoning department is dealing directly with that as right now. They've been dealing directly with that throughout the whole week. We have a pending violation at 10 Ramblewood Drive, and this committee had asked the applicant to again provide a planting plan. So the planting plan can be approved for spring planting for the springtime. And we are going to get a hold of the applicant so he can be in front of the committee, hopefully for, if not the next meeting, the following meeting. So a plan hopefully can be approved and we can move on. And that's all I have regarding the various projects.
I've got one question about that applicant though. I thought we at some point were going to do a site walk. Do we still need?
Okay, so the reason why a sidewalk was never scheduled was because of the town manager and decided that it will be in the best interest of everyone to not have group meetings. So we opted we opted not to do so. I'm sorry I didn't communicate that with you. If for whatever reason, I take you to the site one by one. I can communicate with the applicant and do it that way. But as far as group meetings is concerned, I mean, that's of course the reason why we're not conducting an in-person meeting, and we are doing virtual meetings right now, and we are probably going to be doing that for some time. So, we would discourage anyone from having group meetings at this point.
Okay. All right. So if anyone wants to see the site, they can get in touch with you.
Get in touch with me, and then we'll be glad to either meet up on site or take you out to the site. But I prefer to do it in the one-on-one basis. It's a little bit more manageable that way and we can stay safer that way.
Okay. All right. That sounds like a plan. All right. 5E, open space.
I'm glad Bob talked about Straska. Let me just talk about the trails for a moment. I rarely bring them up, but a couple of things. Number one, at the southern tip of the White Trail, which is the Cromwell end, there was a small original older bridge. It has been weakening and it's been taken down, and the town has put in a really strong, nice new bridge there. And then also, and the reason I bring all this up is that the town, the Parks and Rec Department they're really paying attention to the trails, and those of us who walk them and report back on them get good input from the town. So the other thing, up at Higher Pond, if you remember, there's been heartbreaking beaver damage. I mean, they have taken down trees 20, 30 feet more. I don't know. I have a hard time figuring out how tall they really could be. But the town brought in a tree contractor, and on the west side of the pond, which is the wide dirt road, he took out a lot of those down trees. So now it's open. It looks good. There's more of a vista into the pond. Maybe they can take some down on the other side. It's a narrower trail, but it's a hope. And the other thing that was done was the same tree contractor came in on the east side, which is the narrow trail, and opened it up a little bit for reasons of emergency access, because heaven forbid somebody, broke a leg, went down, and you had to bring in a stretcher or something, it would be tricky. So they've gone in there and they've cleared, just taken down enough trees to make it passable, not terrible. But it's another good thing Parks and Rec has done, and it's wise and it's safe. And those of you, I'm sure everybody hopefully has been on those trails, that Quarry, Buckley, they're getting a huge amount of work use. And that's why I think we're working to keep them up and keep them passable and safe. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Commissioner Kelly, I agree with you. I've been at Quarry Park, and I don't know if I've ever seen so many people there at once. Okay. All right. Open space legislation.
None.
Okay. Conferences.
There was an email that I sent out for a conference that the Connecticut River Coastal Conservation District was leading the charge on. I'm not sure if you did get that email, but if you didn't, let me know. I'll resend that email. But they have a series of workshops that can provide very good training to all of us. So let me know if you're still interested.
Okay. All right. Correspondences, communications.
No, none.
All right. Other business. Anyone else have other business? I actually have a couple of quick points.
Commissioner Brown, if I may, this memo that you received from me, there's two today. That's, I think, probably one of the first times we've done that. And that's something we've done for planning and zoning for as long as I've been with the town, 20 years, with Jim and then me. And, I'm actually working from home I actually have COVID, so I'm at home, and Bob kind of cobbled together that memo off one I did for Kim, similar for the fill and for the other one. So is that something you want us to continue doing? Because it could probably be to both commissions at the same time.
Yeah, no, that was great. I looked at that. It's like comments and recommendations by staff, and there's a great list.
And we just keep doing what we're doing. I mean, it's a platform to generate discussion, basically. And you might not agree or you might agree or disagree with our comments, but it just serves as a platform. I personally, as a staff, I think it's helpful to everyone.
Yeah, because what I do for planning and zoning, they sometimes get pretty in depth because we go into the traffic report and everything else. There's sometimes 3, 4, 5 pages of memos. Yeah, I think what Bob tried to do is condense it, but a lot of the comments you folks had were in my memo to Kim. It was multiple pages. So I think Bob just kind of, knocked it down to the basics. So, but we can keep doing that for you.
Yeah, no, that worked out really well.
All right.
Okay, other business, I have 2 things. One, at past meeting, we discussed a way of possibly flagging people's tax bills if it said that they had a tax rate that included a conservation easement on their land. Something to do with if, like the hearing we have now about 10 Ramblewood, where they didn't know that they had a conservation easement and cut the trees. Did we go anywhere with seeing if there was a way to say you have a special tax rate and then adding in their bill some note saying before you cut any trees in this area, make sure you're not cutting in the conservation easement?
It's not noted on any tax assessor card.
Okay. I thought we had mentioned something that they might get a different rate because they had conservation.
Well, let me just see, and Drew maybe can jump on this just to clarify it. What we have talked about was to perhaps insert some kind of informational page, if you will, about conservation easements. What are conservation easements? What is it that you're supposed to do or do not do in conservation easements? We also spoke about perhaps the need for fines, heavier fines, if you will, regarding or concerning violators, such as the one we encountered at 10 Ramblewood, where we could do an assessment of the damage and say, you're going to be fined so much. And Drew did call me regarding that, and I spoke to a few towns around us. And believe it or not, of course, we have fines. We just don't have specific fines for tree cutting and so forth, but the fines are there. And we are one of the few towns that actually fine. Believe it or not, there's some big towns that I thought that they were, had a better way of controlling violations, but they're not. And I was kind of disappointed, to be honest with you, that we are, I don't want to say in the forefront, but we are doing a lot more than a lot of our surrounding towns are doing right now.
Bob, I think the question is which parcels have a conservation easement, and we're gonna have to do that legwork ourselves.
Yes,
because it's
yeah,
not.
We have that. We had a map with the parcel.
Right.
When it's 10 years old, we can add the parcels that need to be added.
Correct, but it's not flagged on any database that the
Right now.
town clerk or the town assessor or anybody have.
It's normally flagged as wetlands.
Yeah.
Okay. And for staff, I have one other question concerning next month's meeting, because our typical agenda is we listen to a public hearing and then there's the application for permit. Next meeting, we're going to have people speak on the Abdullah Enterprises and then hear from Abdullah Enterprises and then have people speak about commercial services in the presentation from commercial services. Is there a way we split that up so we handle one item and then go to the next item?
Yes, so the way it's going to be placed on the agenda, if you all agree, is that, as you said, it's going to be a public hearing for item, say, 3A for Abdullah Enterprises. Following the public hearing, following the closure of the public hearing or the continuation of the public hearing, we'll have another item 3B, which will be the next public hearing. After those 2 items, then there'll be applications for a permit. If you guys are getting ready to vote on that, then we'll have application for a permit for Abdullah and then application for a permit for 581 Cromwell Avenue. That's normally the way we will set them up, because what happens is I have to send a notice to the paper stating when those public hearings are going to be held. And I have to tell the paper, the first public hearing has to be held, say, at 6 p.m. The next public hearing is going to be held immediately following the closure of the hearing that starts at 6 p.m. That's basically how it's handled. So you'll have 2 public hearings in a row, and then jump into applications for a permit.
Okay, yeah, I just,
Unless you want to do it any other way,
well, I was just thinking about,
the other way.
I was just thinking about Kate Besnick's request, because she has a 7 o'clock meeting. I don't want her waiting to hear everyone from commercial services, because I'm fairly confident there's going to be a lot of people discussing that application as well. So I'd like to make sure that we get Abdul Enterprises out of the way first and then move on.
Right. So, I mean, not that we're gonna conduct these public hearings around Katie's time,
No.
but it just so happens that Abdullah Enterprises was the first application that was filed, and Abdullah Enterprises is the first application on the agenda. So therefore, there will be the first public hearing.
Okay.
But if it wasn't, oh well, you know. But you know, I mean, Katie got a little bit lucky, I guess, if you want to call it that. That Abdullah is the first, the first one on the agenda.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but you're right. There's going to be a little bit of interest from regarding the second application.
Yes. Okay. All right. With that, I think we're at the point where we're ready to adjourn. Anyone make a motion to adjourn?
Can I ask a quick question of staff?
Sure.
Bob, on I know that we talked about where we had an only issue with our fines was on the first violation, which was the most important thing, because if they go and clear cut or do whatever they do to the property, that was something you're working on, just while everybody else in the board.
Yeah, we're working on that. Drew, as you know, with any violation, because it doesn't have to be clear cutting, Drew. It has to,
absolutely,
it could be dumping fill within an upland review area. Our first, we like to have the problem resolved sooner than later. So our first thing, it will be a notice of violation, remove or do whatever you need to do to make the property normal again. And if that doesn't work, then go through the cease and desist order and the show cause hearing and so forth. And depending on that, then we start the fines. That's when the fines come in. That's typically the procedure that we laid out when we have the fines. I can give you the copies of the fines again, and we can discuss them and see if there's something that needs to be changed. Those fines are basically an ordinance. So I'm guessing that any changes to the fine ordinance will have to go through the council, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking. I know that there was discussion. I just want to know, since we do have new people on the commission, if what people's feelings in our group as far as first violation. I understand fixing it, but there should be a small penalty. I mean, it's similar to like doing you're going through a stop sign. Well, it's just not a verbal warning every single time, and then you know what? Just don't do it again, and we will never give you a fine to that.
I know.
A small fine of some sort, and trying to kind of keep the honest people honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Let me give you a copy. Let me circulate copies of the fines, and then let's discuss them again at the next meeting if you like, and see if
I really want to see this get a hot topic
that can be tweaked to our advantage.
Yeah, I think it needs to be addressed. And then the only other question I have is, Bob, and as far as the farm is concerned, there was a bid or something for space? I mean, I didn't know what the cleanup or anything like that. Did anybody bid on this project, or how many bidders on it, or?
Okay, so my understanding is that there was no bidders. There's nobody bid. That we're moving forward to contact. I think there was a bit of a misunderstanding. As you probably know, Corona came in and took out those cars that might have been of value to them. And so we had asked, I says, why aren't you bidding on this? And they said, well, because we took whatever was at any kind of value. And so what we say to Corona was, or Ray Carpentino said to Corona was, no, we are paying you. We're going to be paying you to remove the stuff. And they are like, oh, I didn't realize you were going to pay me. They thought that they were doing it for the scrap of the value of the scrap. So now we can probably contact not only Corona, but Chuck Anetti or Johnny Vassell, whomever wants the stuff, and just get it out of there.
Just get the metal parts now, just get those out of there for
Get
now.
everything out of there. I'm not sure if they're gonna give them a time frame as to when it's gonna be removed, but it's.
Okay.
Just get it all out, as long as it's not placed across the street, take it out of Rocky Hill. So,
You're gonna be across the street next, it looks like, and chase our tail. All right, Bob, I appreciate that update.
no problem.
Okay, so at that point, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, I will see you all February 10th. Safe travels getting home.
Take care, guys. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.